The photos arrived before the truth did. No warning, no explanation, just an envelope sitting on my doorstep like it had always belonged there. No return address, no name, just mine, written in handwriting I didn't recognize. Tell me something. What would you think if your child got married and you found out like this? I didn't feel anything at first. Not anger, not even confusion. Just a quiet kind of curiosity as I slid my finger under the seal and opened it. Then I saw him. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My son, Elric, 34 years old, standing straight in a charcoal suit, shoulders squared, smiling like nothing in the world was out of place. And beside him, her, Thessaly Rune, 29, white dress, calm expression. The kind of composed smile that doesn't ask for approval, it assumes it already has it. I flipped to the next photo, then another. Different angles, different moments, same realization. I wasn't there. No empty chair, no sign I had even been considered, just absence. And then the note slipped out, short, clean, careful. We kept it small. Only people who matter. I read that line again. Only people who matter. What does that even mean when it comes from your own child? I didn't cry. Not then. I've lived long enough to know some things don't hit you all at once. They settle in slowly, like cold air seeping through a crack you didn't know was there. I placed the photos on the table and just stared at them. The venue looked expensive, elegant, thought out. Nothing about it looked small. So why say that? And more importantly, why make sure I saw it? Because that's what this was. Not an accident, not forgetfulness. This was deliberate. The last time Elric and I spoke, his voice had a strange edge to it. Controlled, measured, like he was choosing what not to say. I ignored it then. I don't ignore things anymore. A week passed. No call, no explanation, just silence. Until my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go. I should have. But I answered, and the voice on the other end said, "Hello, this is Thessaly. We need to talk about the rent." Rent. I remember tightening my grip on the phone, because in that moment, I knew this story wasn't about a wedding. It was about something else entirely, and I was just now being pulled into it. Rent. That was the word she chose. Not hello, not an introduction, not even an apology, just rent. Let me ask you something. If someone calls you out of nowhere, asking for money tied to your own home, wouldn't you pause? I did, but I didn't show it. What rent? I asked, calm, steady, like this was a normal conversation. She didn't hesitate, not even for a second. The house, Thessaly said. Elric told me you were covering it until we settled in. Covering it. I looked around my kitchen as she spoke. Same cabinets, same worn edges on the table, same house I paid off years ago, one careful payment at a time. There was nothing to cover. Which meant one thing. Someone wasn't telling the truth. Elric said it was your idea, she continued, that you insisted on helping. Insisted. That word. It didn't belong to me. I've never been the kind of mother who insists. If anything, I stepped back too much, let him make his own choices, even when those choices slowly pushed me out of his life. So why would he say that? And why involve me in something financial? I let a small silence stretch between us. People fill silence when they're uncomfortable. She didn't. So I asked the next question. How much are you expecting? 2,000, she said. It's already late. Late. There it was again. Another word that didn't sit right. Late meant expectation, agreement, a timeline, something structured. But I had agreed to nothing. My eyes drifted to the photos still sitting on the table, the ones he made sure I'd see. That suit wasn't cheap. That venue wasn't small. That wedding, whatever he called it, was planned, carefully. So where did the money come from? And why pretend I was involved? That's when something shifted in me. Not anger, not yet. Just attention, sharp, focused. Because this wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a story. And I was hearing it from the wrong person. So instead of correcting her, instead of arguing, I said something else, something simple. You might want to check the date. Silence. I could almost hear her thinking. What date? She asked. And right there, right in that moment, I knew she didn't know everything, which meant there was more, a lot more. But I wasn't going to explain it to her, not yet. I hung up. No goodbye, no clarification, just quiet. Because before I said another word, I needed to see something for myself. The date. It wasn't just a detail. It was the center of everything. Have you ever had that moment where something small suddenly feels important? Like a loose thread you weren't supposed to notice? That's what this was. The second I hung up, I knew exactly where to go. There's a drawer in my kitchen I don't open often, bottom right. It sticks a little when you pull it, like it resists being disturbed. Inside it, documents, old ones, important ones. I hadn't touched them in years, until that moment. I pulled out the folder and set it on the table. Thin, organized, precise, just like I left it. 5 years ago, Elric came to me with a problem. He said he needed help, said his business was on the edge of something big, but he needed leverage, stability, something solid behind him. So I gave him access to the house. Not ownership, not control, access, with conditions. Strict ones. I remember making him sit across from me, watching him sign every page. He didn't argue, didn't hesitate. At the time, I thought that meant trust. Now, I'm not so sure. I flipped through the pages slowly, letting each line settle in my mind again. He could not rent it, could not lease it, could not promise anything tied to it. Clear, simple, unmistakable. And then I saw it. The date. Expiration. 1 week ago. I stopped turning the pages. 1 week. The same week as the wedding. The same week Thessaly suddenly cared about rent. That's not a coincidence. That's timing. Careful timing. So let's think about this. If he told her I was covering rent, and the agreement just ended, then what had he been using before? Where was that money coming from? Because it wasn't me. That question didn't sit quietly. It pushed. So I moved. I didn't call Elric. No, talking to him now would only give him time to adjust the story. Instead, I went to the business address he once used, the one he proudly showed me years ago. It was empty. Not recently empty. Gone. Cleared out. A neighbouring tenant barely looked up when I asked. They left months ago, he said. Packed fast. Months. Do you see it? Because now the timeline doesn't match anything he told her. Or me. And right there, standing in that empty hallway, something in me changed. The confusion? Gone. The hurt? Still there, but quieter. Replaced by something sharper. Understanding. That night, my phone rang again. Her. But this time, her voice had changed. Tighter. Controlled. I spoke to Elric, Thessaly said. He told me you've been forgetful. Forgetful? I almost laughed. Instead, I said something else. Come over tomorrow morning. A pause, then, fine. And as the call ended, I realized something important. Tomorrow. The truth wouldn't be managed anymore. The truth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it walks in, sits down across from you, and waits. That's exactly what Thessaly did. 9 in the morning. Not early, not late. Precise. She knocked once. Firm, controlled. When I opened the door, she didn't smile, didn't hesitate either. Her eyes moved past me immediately, scanning the house like she was measuring something. Value, maybe, or risk. Have you ever met someone who already believes they understand the situation before hearing anything? That was her. We sat at the kitchen table. Same table where I raised Elric. Same place where he once did his homework, where he signed that agreement without question. I placed the folder between us. Before we talk about rent, I said, you should read this. She didn't argue. That surprised me. She opened it, slow at first, then faster. Her posture shifted, just slightly, shoulders tightening, eyes narrowing as she reached the middle pages. This says he can't… Yes, I said calmly. He can't rent it. He can't promise it. He never could. She flipped to the last page, and then she stopped. This expired last week. I nodded. The same week you got married. Now she looked at me. Really looked this time. That doesn't make sense, she said. He told me everything was already arranged. Of course he did. That's how these things work. You don't build a lie all at once, you layer it, carefully. I leaned forward slightly. He told you I was paying rent, I said. Did he ever tell you where that money came from? Silence. Not defensive, not angry, just blank. Because she didn't know. And that was the moment everything started to shift. I reached for the second set of papers, bank statements. I slid them toward her. Look closely. She did. Line by line. Transfers, withdrawals. Patterns that didn't belong to stability. They belonged to maintenance, covering gaps, buying time. Her voice dropped. He said his business was still running. There it was, the last piece. I met her eyes and answered plainly. It hasn't been, I said. Not for months. No drama, no emphasis, just truth. And you could see it happen, the exact moment it landed. Not just doubt, recognition, like something she had been ignoring, finally stepped into focus. Because now, the wedding, the rent, the timing, it all pointed to the same thing. This wasn't just a lie. It was a life built on one. And she had just stepped into it. So what actually happened? Let's lay it out clearly, because by the time Thessaly walked out of my house, There was no confusion left, only facts. Elric's business didn't slow down, it collapsed. Months before that wedding, months before those photos ever reached me, his company was already gone. Offices vacated, accounts drained. Whatever he built, it failed. But instead of saying that, instead of facing it, he replaced it with a story. He told Thessaly he was stable, successful, still running everything. And to explain the money he no longer had, he used me. He told her I was paying rent, that I insisted, that I was supporting them while they settled in. Think about that. I wasn't excluded by accident. I was excluded because I would have exposed the lie the moment I opened my mouth. That's why I got photos instead of an invitation. Controlled information, safe distance. But the timing failed him. The agreement expired, the money stopped. And suddenly, his story needed me to be real. That's why she called. Emotional payoff. Before Thessaly left, she stood by the door for a long moment. Not angry, not loud, just still. "Did you know?" she asked. I answered honestly, "No." And for the first time since she arrived, her composure broke. Not dramatically, just enough to show the weight of it. "I married someone I don't recognize," she said. I didn't respond, because there was nothing to soften. Consequence payoff. What followed moved quickly. She confronted him that same day, voices raised, questions he couldn't answer cleanly. Neighbours heard. And once things like that start, they don't stay contained. The truth spread. Debts surfaced, real ones. Accounts were nearly empty. Old business partners began reaching out again, not to reconnect, but to collect. Within a week, Thessaly filed for annulment. Misrepresentation, that was the word used. Legal notices followed Elric soon after. Creditors, obligations, everything he had delayed finally catching up. And without the story holding him together anymore, he came back, to me. He stood outside my door, knocked once, then again. I heard him. I just didn't move. Not out of anger, but because something had already settled inside me. Final resolution moment. Weeks passed. The house is quiet again. No photos on the table, no notes, no unanswered questions. Just clarity. Sometimes my phone rings. His name appears. I look at it, and I let it stop. Because the truth did arrive, just not the way he planned. And now that it's here, everything is exactly where it belongs.